Health drift check indeed. This is the 29th of April 2025 and it is Tuesday, so as we embrace the health matters. Remember, it's a conversation that you don't want to miss because you are health matters, and even as we begin the conversation, what are some of the aspects to consider in your well-being? The health drift check right here is here for you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the morning drift, and inclusive of this particular conversation and engagement, we're going to have just a discussion on non-communicable diseases and why should we care. Of course, to embrace that fact, we are having so many diseases that are coming along, and to get the point home, what is a better reflection we can have on this particular disease yenye tunaita non-communicable. But to have the empowerment in line, I'll be introducing our guest in a short while just to give us the emphasis on the same. I believe on these non-communicable diseases there is a storming story that is alarming across the social media platforms, and of course we can't forget about the blood parliament that has caused so much pressure towards so many people. And I don't know if depression is one of the non-communicable diseases, or pressure rather. We will get to understand that. But what is your view also, because it's a media house, what is your view on the blood parliament across all social media platforms? It's trending right on Look Up Television. Of course, we can't forget to highlight that particular engagement. So what is your view on the blood parliament? Wewe imekufanya umefeel namna gani? If you look at the comment section, unasema ni kubaya, imefanya hata ukachukia serikali kabisa. So what is your view on the same? But because health matters, yaliyopita si ndwele tugange yajayo, and of course my health is my life. So even as we embrace now non-communicable diseases, why should we care? Allow now our guests to introduce themselves. Tuanze na.
All right, first of all, thank you very much for welcoming us here this great morning. My name is Antony Karumba. I am a clinician, same time an author and a public speaker at the same time.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed, and we it's a while since we had someone speaking with a lot of, you know.
Oh, thank you.
So how do, you're a medic, of course. How do you speak to your patients?
Well,
So I want to
course.
treat you. And
Oh my goodness, of course, there's that liveliness, of course, and I love it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But that's good. Please, sir.
Thank you for such kind of an invite. My name is Jeff Kipsang. Jeff is a nurse, he's an author. I'm also a founder and organization that is King Jeff Foundation. I'm a poet too and a public speaker.
Indeed.
Yeah.
First things first, let's begin with the poet.
Yes.
Do you do that to your patients?
Once in a while, because it's also part of therapy. You can do a poet, you can recite a poem just to cool the anxiety or stress. You know, some of the diseases rather, or the condition which some patients go through, it's actually mental.
Indeed.
So if they get a conducive environment which can relieve their tension, the anxiety, you get even, it recovers, it aids or fosters recovery.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. So assume that I'm a patient right here, and maybe I'm suffering from a particular disease, and I'm coming to your hospital for medication or treatment. See, you cheze come away with a poet.
Next time we'll be here, I promise. I'll do the one. Yeah.
Sawa. Can't wait, of course, for the same. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are two guests, Peter Uman, of course, Jeff Kipsang, who will be assisting us in understanding non-communicable diseases. My name is Okech, and of course, my director is King Dantimax. Now, let's begin this conversation, Jeff.
Yes.
So, what are non-communicable diseases?
Non-communicable diseases are diseases that cannot be transmitted from one person to another. For an instance, let me give a very slight an example of COVID. You know, COVID can be easily transmitted via air. There are other diseases that can be transmitted by touch. The other diseases that through body fluids you get in touch with, or maybe through sexual intercourse, unprotected sexual intercourse, you get to get the diseases.
Indeed.
But specifically non-communicable diseases, it cannot be transmitted from one person to the other. But there are factors that usually aids in their cause.
Indeed.
There is environmental factors, you have genetic factors, and quite a number of them.
All right.
Yeah.
So will you give us some examples of these non-communicable diseases that perhaps Jeff has mentioned?
Well, when you talk about non-communicable, just like my friend Kipsang has just said, These are conditions that they cannot be transmitted from one person to another. And basically we have a range of so many conditions that lies actually under non-communicable. Likes of diabetes, which is very common. Likes of hypertension, of course, it's a very common. We have some other conditions to specific systemic conditions, likes of we have renal conditions. We have, cardiac conditions like, CVD and the rest. So there are a number of so many conditions which are not communicable. We also have conditions like stroke. These are conditions that necessarily they have these predisposing factors out of the major difference, definitely. Like when you talk about communicable diseases, they have a specific cause, like what you call the microbes. When you talk about microbes, you're talking of things like bacteria, things like viruses, things like all kind of microbes. But now these ones, definitely they don't have a specific microbe or organism that causes. This is a condition that develops maybe out of a lifestyle, maybe out of the behavior, lifestyle. There are a range of causes of this condition.
So what's the difference in it? How can we differentiate between communicable and non-communicable with less words for that layman to understand?
With less words, it's to say communicable conditions, conditions which can be one person to another. Non-communicable conditions, these are conditions which cannot be easily transmitted from one person to another. A good example is when you talk about a flu. There are some causative agents of this flu, like some things we call scientifically Bordetella pertussis. That's a scientific condition. But now when you talk about an example of a non-communicable disease, talk about things like hypertension. If he is hypertensive, he cannot transmit hypertension to you, you get. But if somebody has a flu here, can easily transmit it to you, maybe due to that direct contact.
All right, direct contact, and which now results to the understanding of the same. So we are having an outbreak, of course, cholera, right in the Republic. Is that non-communicable?
No, cholera has, just from how my colleague here, Karumba, has put it very clearly, that non-communicable diseases doesn't have a causative. Like now the non-communicable disease doesn't have, but communicable diseases have. And communicable diseases can be transmitted from one person to another depending on the agent of transmission. Now, for instance, now cholera can be transmitted from one person to another. It has a causative bacteria. It's called cholerae. If that is all you get, try and when there is an outbreak, whether even if there is no an outbreak, prevention here is key. So you have to wash your hands, you have to cook your food well. So that specifically classify cholera as a communicable disease.
All right, talk to us about now. I'm reading here, of course, 10 non-communicable diseases which are very common. Cardiovascular disease like heart attacks and strokes. We have cancer, chronic respiratory disease like asthma. We have diabetes, mental disorders, chronic kidney disease, oral disease, eye and ear disorder, and of course we have ugonjwa kama sickle cell and other injuries. So please talk to us about these particular non-communicable diseases, to specifics, then also Uma will also give us some insight on his side.
Okay. Let me specify kwanza. The research shows that death, the cost at which non-communicable cause diseases has really increased to 74%. That makes it a leading cause of death globally. And I want to specify, I want to talk about the cardio diseases. The research shows, the late research shows that the cause of death globally has increased. And one of the reasons is because of the increase of cardiovascular diseases. And these cardiovascular diseases, they have quite a number of causes. And to start with, one is usually lifestyle diseases. The rate at which we consume fats, the rate at which we are lazy. You know, body, usually it's good to be a good manager. Not only in other things in the offices, the way we manage time, but it's also crucial to manage our body. And to manage our body through diet and weight. And because people, I usually say we have a tendency currently whereby we are too lazy to handle our health issues. Let me just pose a question to you. When did you check your weight?
Indeed, long time.
Long time. And for a matter of fact, you need to check your weight as more as you can, more often as you can. Look, the instance that you have also to be considerate about the quantity of fat you use in your diet. Currently, people take junk a lot. People take a lot of food that contain cholesterol, which tend to cause, which is a leading cause of cardiovascular diseases. And people have neglected the aspect of exercise currently. That is why we are being advised. You have to run, you have to jog,
Indeed.
you have to skip. You see, and it's a normal thing. Unless we tend to do such kind of things, these cardiovascular diseases will still be a talk in as much as health globally is
Indeed.
concerned.
All right, Antony, what are some that you could mention for us this morning?
Well, you see now, when you talk, just like we began actually through introduction, maybe just one thing to top up on the introduction there. You see, most of these non-communicable diseases, they tend to be chronic, yeah? And chronic, it means are irreversible, yeah? And like when you talk about now communicable, which
Indeed.
most of them, they are reversible. You can just take medication, and once, like for instance, the bacteria is fought, you're good, you're cured. But now when you talk about these communicable, I mean non-communicable conditions, they are chronic conditions, they are irreversible. That means you might be required to take drugs to manage this condition for a longer time compared to the other one.
Indeed.
And for instance, like what my friend has talked about here, you see nowadays what is escalating, the rate at which people are getting these non-communicable diseases, it's actually their lifestyle.
Indeed.
You see, most people tends to live this sedentary lifestyle. For instance, you're blessed, you drive your car, you work in an office. So once you get to an office, for you, you sit the whole day. For instance, you are seated the whole day. Then after there, you don't even have time to exercise. You leave your office there, you drive your car home, and then there at home still you're seated, you just go to sleep. So sedentary lifestyle, it's one of the conditions, I mean, it's one of the very escalating factors towards getting this condition. Another thing is actually the dietary. You see now, most of the people, for instance, they love taking these sugary stuffs, you know, which are rich in starch and all that. And you see, this lifestyle, I mean, diet, it's one of the things that has led to increase of these conditions. For instance, you find, my friend has talked about the weight. There's something you call BMI, which means body mass index. Body mass index, it's something that I always advocate people to always know. Like, for instance, you are supposed to know what is your body mass index. There are these things that we have to do. It's not a must that you are sick so that you can know such kind of things. When you talk about body mass index, it helps you know, because some people, when you talk about weight, there is people who are underweight. There are those whose weight is normal, and there are those who are overweight and obese. Now, for instance, this is very crucial and cardinal to our listeners and the viewers, so that they can understand. When you talk about your body mass index, we take your weight, your weight in kgs, we divide by your height in meters squared. Once the range, there's a normal range that you use to compare so that we can tell, is it over, is it below, or what it is. So if once you do this calculation, you get below than 18, that means that person is underweight. Between 18.5 to 24.5, that means that person is normal. 24.5 up to 29.5, that is overweight. Now, when you talk about 30 and above, we are talking of now somebody who is already in obesity. And still, when you talk about this obesity also has classes. You get my point? There are those who are mild obese, there are those who are moderately obese, and there are those who are severely obese. Let me tell you now the disadvantage. For instance, I give you a very pragmatic example. If you take a packet of cement, which is 50 kg, we tell you to lift it up. You see how heavy it is.
Indeed.
Now, if for instance you weigh like 100 kgs, and for instance your height is maybe, let's say 2 meters, you see, like for instance when I'm seated like this, my weight concentration or weight distribution is actually measured at the lower back.
Of course.
You get my point? All the weight is actually concentrated around this lower back, which means if I sit for long, for instance, I sit for the whole day, that weight is concentrating on this position of the back.
Oh, that's why I'm trying to feeling pain.
Yes. By the time I'm waking up from there, and all this weight was actually held around this place, you expect to have like muscle spasms. You expect that person to have, because there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of tension. Like for instance, when you talk about the low back, there's a way the bones of the back, they are lined in a way, they are like in circles, sitting on each other.
Just to hold it there, I think it will be more better when it's practical. You can just make a step here, then we just do some. You know, if you tell the viewer low back and the so there's some points we might not understand that. So you're saying about the particular areas, like for instance, where's the back? Oh, we use this daktari to give us
let's use him.
Let's use this side to nekane kwa nini. So this one is our patient now.
Let's now use him. Just face this side if you don't mind.
Right.
Now, when you talk about now this weight distribution, now weight distribution, right from this we call it the vertebral column. The vertebral column. Now, normally the weight distribution is actually through this vertebral column. Indeed. Now, at this age here, we divide it actually into, we have the cervical, we have the thoracic, we have the lumbar, and of course here we have the fused, sacral, and coccyx. But now, around this area, I want us to concentrate on this area. That is around this area, let's call it Kiuno. So around this area, the lumbars, we have 5 lumbar bones here. That is L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. Amazing. Now, between L5 here and this sacrum, there's what we call promontory of sacrum. That is where this bone sits on, because these ones are already,
I get it.
Pelvic, they are fused. So, when now, between these bones, in between them, they are what we call discs.
Indeed.
You get?
Indeed.
Now, if, for instance, that weight you are seated on that position for a longer time, you expect there's a lot of exertion of tension on that, between that those bones, and now the disc in between. So there are probabilities here. Really? For instance, that disc may bulge or prolapse either to the front or posterior. Indeed. You get?
So that means when you're sitting down, of course, you give so much pressure to the other, and then that is why you get so much tired. And you're just sitting.
Yeah. Again, you see now, at the sides of this vertebral column, they are actually muscles. Indeed. Some of them, we call them like longismus. I don't want to go into details. I just want to give you the brief thing that you can easily understand. So these muscles, once you're seated for long, what happens is that they tend to constrict more. Indeed. So as a result of this constriction, they can develop something we call spasms. Spasms ni kama kukazana kabisa, to the point that every part of the body, it requires oxygen circulation, free oxygen circulation. But now when there is that too much compression, somebody tends to develop what you call ischemic pain.
Indeed.
You get my point? Ischemic pain. So as a result, you'll find this person, by the time you are leaving that office, then I give you another thing that is very common. For instance, from that too much weight, now, normally we have what we call the nervous system. The nervous system is actually what controls or coordinates the communication of the body. Now, for the lower limb, or miguu, its source, there's what we call sciatic nerve, originates from this area of the lumbar and sacral. We call it lumbar sacral trunk origination. Now, for instance, if you sit, there's this area here, we have a lot of muscles around here. Indeed. Now, these muscles, definitely sometimes, when you constrict them too much, for instance, there's too much tension, you find the root of this nerve, the sciatic, it's also compressed. So at times you'll be waking up and you find you have a pain ama umeganda. The best one ni kuganda. Kwa sababu ile nerve imefanya nini? Imefinywa. Lakini by the time after umeamka, you stretch a bit, you try to do a bit of stretch and all that, you find the pain is released.
Wow.
You get my point?
Amazing.
Yeah, that's
that is wonderful. Of course, even as you take your seats, ndio maana nashangaa editors wanaumia sana sana hizo viungo vya sehemu hizo. Kwanza umesema hiyo sehemu inaitwa has some sort of a name, like on a muscle. Then you've mentioned about that is perfect.
That's the posterior pelvic.
Just to add on, he has talked about ischemic pain. Indeed. He has talked about also the numbness of the feet.
Indeed.
And just want to add something about the knee. Because of the overweight of the upper body, that will also it will also result in knee pain.
Indeed.
And when there is knee pain, now you get a lot of body weight has oppressed the knees. Then you get some people, their knees has taken quite a number, has taken an abnormal shape of a kinda.
In fact, there, to be very specific, when you talk about there's a form of arthritis. I don't know whether you have heard about arthritis. So normally we have this arthritis of the back. We have this arthritis of the back, which can easily develop to someone, or else even the joints themselves, the knee. And most of them you find it's caused actually by this too much weight, and all that.
All right. So what exactly are non-communicable diseases? Of course, we've empowered that. And so why do you think, Kelshot is asking, why do you think non-communicable diseases are becoming more prevalent, especially among young people?
The reason number one, we young people, we have developed a norm or a tendency, or rather a culture of eating anything. Sima vijana tunakulanga anything. Kupika imekuwa ni ngori, imekuwa ni story. Unataka upite pale, uchape kachipo, ufike place pale, ukule kasmoki, ufike pale, sijui umekula nini. By the time unafika kwa hao, you've eaten a lot of things, you've eaten a lot of junk. And have this in mind because of hustling. Saying life imekuwa hard kiasi, na get. So unapata the limited time you have, hiyo ni time nafaa upige hustle yako. So unapata time yawe kwenda ku exercise, kutembea, kujog is limited. Hauna hiyo time. So unapata msichana anatoka job, anadishi hapo machipo, makuku, manini, mutura na njugu. You see very complicated stuff. Anafika kwa hao, the following day in the morning, same thing applies. Kwa hao, job. Kwa hao, job. Unapata even eating the veggies, the greens. Nilikuwa nauliza wase fulani mazee, unajua hizi mamboga zinaitwa kunde, saga? Hatuna clue at all. And they are very, very, very vital in our health. And we also have neglected the aspect of exercise. Tumekuwa tu wazembe. Unapanda stairs mbili hivi unasikia vile jamaa na hema, you are like, hey, I'm very unfit. And there is this perception whereby people think that people who are unfit wanakuanga overweight. Unaweza kuwa unfit but when you slim kiasi tu kidesign. So we tend to think that because of neglection of good diet and sedentary lifestyle are the leading cause among young people.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Before I get to Antony, I'd really like to ask Jeff, what really motivated you to now make an insight on non-communicable diseases?
Globally, the latest research shows that the leading cause of death is non-communicable diseases. At least by 74%. That is equivalent to almost 41 million people die.
Indeed.
Because of non-communicable diseases. And that one has really risen an eyebrow among health and among nations. Unless we talk about this, unless we talk how we prevent it, it will still be something to talk about every day.
Day in, day out.
Day
a conversation.
in, day out.
All right, thank you so much, Jeff, of course, for that empowerment. When we come back, Antony, we'll delve now on the awareness as a clinician, of course, the betterment in the society, in the community, to make them empowered. So that will be a conversation on the later times that we will embrace Health Drift Check. Now it's 25 minutes past 9 a.m. When we get back, we'll have more emphasis on NCDs. Don't go too far. This is the Morning Drift.
If you want to have a proper outlook of the economy, then you have to speak to the walls and gears of the integral businesses in the country.
And I want to be able to make the youths and everybody coming up in Kenya know that this is here locally.
Men and women in the thick of the bust of markets rising and falling, fighting to make their business decisions stick.
I've always lived in my career that I can never be late.
You need to train by yourself. You need to practice by yourself. Then from there you can compose yourself and give kind of services like this.
On season 2 of the Captain's Arena, we seek the inside of the minds, predict the shift in the markets, get inspiration to start and make sense of it all.
Just watch what everybody else is doing and just make sure you're giving back to the society.
Oof. This is the Captain's Arena.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Lookup, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki, na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu, kwa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasa wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi man.
Mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
Start your day with a workout routine, an exciting moment of exercise that is simple but powerful for your ultimate fitness. Build your strength, shape and body muscles with lunges, push-ups, squats, burpees, planks, dumbbells and more. Let's work out every Monday to Saturday from 6:30 a.m. on Fitness Zone, a one surefire way to attack your fitness regimen effectively.
NCDs, of course, it's a conversation right here on Health Drift Check. And of course, if it matters to you, you can also share with us your opinion, your comments and suggestions towards non-communicable diseases. And by the way, because it's a conversation that matters a lot to many of us, right at the heart of the community, even as we create now the empowerment and the awareness in the best way possible. Now we're introducing Antony to give us just the awareness part of it. So you are a clinician and you are in the heart of the society. Why do you think that the essence of non-communicable diseases matters a lot to this particular society that we're speaking to?
Exactly. Well, we always say that your health is your wealth.
Indeed.
It's very important actually when we create this awareness to the people.
Indeed.
Because basically prevention is better than cure.
Of course.
You see, most people, some of these conditions, it's easy to avoid them.
Indeed.
For instance, we have these conditions which are called genetic conditions. In your lineage, in your family lineage, you find there's somebody, maybe your mother or side of your father, there's a history of diabetes, there's a history of hypertension, which means you are vulnerable to such condition if you don't take care of yourself.
Indeed.
But you see, the more we create this awareness of dietary modification, the more we create the awareness on the need to change their lifestyle and all that, we are helping the people to prevent themselves and to live a healthy lifestyle. Because, like for instance, nowadays, I always tell people this. If you eat healthy, that is a balanced diet,
Indeed.
you drink enough water, you exercise, your body is healthy, you know. But you find some people sometimes, we as human beings, we tend to do everything else, but you forget to take care of your health.
Indeed.
Yeah, and that is why you find some of these conditions. They are preventable, but they are escalating daily. The numbers are escalating, and they are killer conditions. Number one, remember, these are irreversible conditions, which means if today you get hypertension, it means for the rest of your life, you'll be required to live on medication.
Indeed.
Yeah? And maybe it's a condition that you would have taken care of and prevented it from happening.
All right.
Now, another thing is this. We have this, like hypertension, for instance. There are people nowadays, they become hypertensive, but they are not aware because people tend to ignore hospital, what we call like hospitali when you wagonjwa.
Indeed.
But they don't embrace the importance of regular checkups. It's very important, at least you visit a hospital for a regular checkup. You check they are what we call vitals. You check your blood pressure, you see whether it's within the normal. Because nowadays we have this, like for instance, somebody is hypertensive or the blood pressure has started actually increasing, but some of the symptoms people tend to ignore. For instance, you may develop a very severe or excruciating headache.
Indeed.
But we have tendency of you rush to the nearby chemist, you buy some painkillers, and then you find even after taking the painkiller, it does not end there.
Indeed.
Now you find as a result, what happens? This pressure spikes to the point that sometimes somebody will come to the hospital, the pressure is almost 200 over 150.
Indeed.
Yeah? And that, you might develop something we call hypertensive emergency.
Indeed.
And when people get this condition, you find even somebody, even if you are driving, even if you're maybe riding a motorbike, you'll topple over, you'll fall down.
Indeed.
And you see, that results to another condition. Hypertension can result even to, CVA. CVA
Indeed.
means cerebrovascular accident,
Indeed.
which can result to stroke. Yeah, you find somebody who is diabetic. Yeah, and again, there's a condition, by the way, I felt like emphasizing that most people don't know. Like for instance, we have these people. She is not, particularly to the women, the pregnant women. They are not hypertensive. But during that pregnancy journey, they tend to develop their pressure spikes. We call it, what do you call it? Hypertension during pregnancy. Yeah? And you see, it can...
Gestational hypertension.
Yeah, gestational hypertension, gestational diabetes. These people or these mothers, they are not hypertensive per se. But during that pregnancy journey, there's pressure, the sugar levels, they spikes. So these are people who requires a regular clinic to the facility so that you can take care of both the mother and the child.
All right. Yeah. So even as you talked about pressure and the pressure manenos, allow us to comment a little bit on the pressure that is mounting right to the heart of the people, and everyone is complaining about it, and they feel like kama government haitafanya kitu, it means that there will be war. What will be your perception on the blood parliament?
Just to bring or just to emphasize or echo something about there, is that, at the end of it all, it doesn't matter what is happening or what you're going through. It's about how you handle.
Indeed.
If you can't handle your stress, if you cannot handle depression, then that means your health is at risk.
Indeed.
So regardless of what you're going through, how life imekuwa hard, nani ameletwa on board, nini inaendelea parliament, people have died, as much as you will want to to depict your anger.
Indeed.
But have this in mind, you can be depicting your anger but putting your health at risk. So stress management or depression management is very, very vital.
So kwa historia yetu tunafaa tufanyaje?
Just learn to be cool and respond calmly.
Indeed.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. I'm saying Antony wants to comment on the same.
Yeah, you know, this is a blood parliament. It's a very controversial debate, and of course has really, you know, spurred a lot of negative response and mixed reactions from Kenyans. First of all, it's a very sad thing because it's now exposing the reality and showing us how inhuman, you know, the heinous acts which took place within the parliament.
Indeed.
It's a very traumatizing picture. You can't imagine that government would reach to a point of killing its own people.
Indeed.
But however, now that it happened, there's nothing much we can do. I think the biggest or the best admonition I can give, particularly to my fellow young people, it's to remain calm.
Kabisa.
It's to always make sure that we don't allow ourselves to get into things that maybe might lose more lives. Yeah. The best thing is to, first of all, we be calm. Another thing, there's what we call sort and sieve. There means giving priorities to what deserves a priority.
Indeed.
Number one, we cannot say that we are fighting for our country when we are killing ourselves. I mean, when we are exposing ourselves to them. But another thing, when you come to the side of the government, it's always important to be a responsible government that takes care of its own people. Because again, a human being and a human life, no life that should be lost at any circumstance.
Indeed.
By whatever substratum, we should not allow loss of life,
Of course.
even in such kind of a thing.
Indeed.
But to this point, I admonish my people, just take care of yourself, just handle it without pressure, and as we move forward, if at all will require, because this calls for good governance, and this means we have to, because we have our enfranchised right of voting, then it means the change we need, we already have the solution.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. You want to try something on blood pressure?
I just want to add something on it. You know, when the demonstration were taking place, there was some query. People were saying that they are goons.
Indeed.
The demonstration were peaceful, but there are people who tended to take advantage of peaceful demonstration, whereby you find they're destroying properties. Unapata msee had taken a loan, maybe perhaps 2 million loan, set up property. Then ajamaliza hata kulipa loan, ajakula matunda hiyo biashara, then of a sudden imechomwa, imekuwa looted. So you find such kind of a person, lazima tu atende into stress, and if doesn't manage it well, unapata imeenda to what? To depression.
Indeed.
And just to echo on what Antony has said here, you know, it is a democratic nation. As much as we are tending to demonstrate concerning development because of bad governance, because of bad leaders, let us have this in mind. Uyo MP wako ni ulimpigia kura.
Kabisa.
Uyo governor wako ni ulimpigia kura. That calls us for us personal responsibility or initiative.
Indeed.
Kuhakikisha the person you are voting for ana bring change, because you have a tendency of voting because of who unajua nani, unamjua huyu amenipatia nini. If we can change direction from such kind of mentality of voting to whereby we vote with scorecard, I think we can also avoid such kind of demonstration in our country.
All right. I believe
maybe
on that angle, yes,
maybe
blood pressure indeed.
Yeah. You know, very zealous actually matters the governance and leadership of our country. I think one more thing to the leaders, you know, it calls for responsibility. And again, it's very important to understand that nothing new under the sky and nothing will last forever. It's very ephemeral. Even the position you hold, no matter how selfish you can never be the president forever. You can never be the governor forever. You can never be the senator forever. It means this opportunity that you have, it's just an opportunity given to you by God to make sure that you bring developments to the people.
Indeed.
And which means if there is anything controversial that demands maybe a canvas between the people and the leaders, it should be solved in a very amicable way.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, amicably, that is the voice of Karumba speaking about the blood pressure and understanding, of course, what's the context on blood parliament. All right, so even as we delve on the same, we've emphasized a little on blood parliament, but the main conversation here was blood pressure is communicables, no? So let's shift gears to the NCDs. Jeff, what will you say about your experience right here in these non-communicable diseases? What is this story that ilikupiga sana when you're embracing NCDs?
What really mattered to me or lifted my eyebrow is that I found young people, they are very energetic, very educated, but following just a simple instruction, just sitting down, deciding on what to eat, just a balanced diet. You know, something like a balanced diet doesn't need that you need to have thousands. No, unakikisha hapo uko na kamboga, uko na kanini hapo, and you're drinking water, and that is all. But the rate at which we young people are neglecting health and eating good diet is very alarming. And I found out that people eat what it is available, not what is needed. We are quick to quench our cravings more than taking something that is so substantial as health is concerned.
Smocha.
Yes. Smocha. I hear sijui kuna nini inachanganywa. Yani we have developed some things to come up with eat junk. We're just giving it some names. But honestly speaking, it is very unhealthy.
And thereafter you lose the appetite to take ugali with the skuma. Because you feel like sasa hizi ni chakula.
Of course, kipata jamaa amekula smocha mbili, amechapa hapo makaimati. Do you think huyo mse hata dishi? Hata dishi. And another thing just I want to emphasize this is that we have a poor tendency of drinking water. Ini kitu wase wajayo na importance.
Last week, Dr. Cecilia Karanja, of course, elaborated on the same.
Yes.
Na bado nimeona kuna tatizo hapo.
Kuna tatizo kubwa sana. Kuna tatizo.
Karumba asked for the same as well.
Nilikuwa nauliza, out of 10 people have asked this question, have you drank water? Mzee anakuambia out of 10, 7 wanakuambia mazemi hata sikumbuki nilikunywa maji lini. Imagine. But every day unapata you lose some water through sweating, through short cold or any other process. But every day you are losing water, but your intake is poor. So definitely kidney diseases zita increase.
And that's why there is also call to action in the same that ukiona mtu ameenda haja mpatie dakika kama 10 kwanza kabla hujaenda kunoka. All right. So in the same manner, of course, what is very important and a key aspect, of course, in the enlightenment of our health. But allow me to ask now, Karumba, how can now we incorporate these ministries, institutions, and leaders around, the clinicians as well, the nurses, everyone to come in hand in creating awareness towards these particular NCDs to have a greater weight that watu wanze kujua hii story that these are diseases zenye zinaweza come along and they're coming in with specific conditions that zinaweza to affect in the later future.
Yes, exactly. One of the ways actually is like this is what we are doing right here. This is part of creating awareness to the people. We come, we teach them, we let them learn. Another thing it calls for all of us holistically, be it a clinician, a doctor, a nurse, all of us as a holistic team. We always say alone you can go faster, but as a team you can go far. You know, we need to help the people to understand these things because the more we major on prevention, definitely we'll have a healthy nation because people understand. I think when somebody doesn't know this is bad, they tend to do it. Like now when you're talking about things like even akina smocha, some of these things, we know it's a business, yes, and somebody even may not, receive this very positively. But of course, look at the healthy part of it. There are some of the things that if you take for long, or if you take in higher amounts, it will affect your health. And this we have to emphasize. We have to come together. It has to be taught even in schools. We have to make sure even in churches we emphasize on the same. At least get these platforms. Teach people on matters weight. How can you make sure that you moderate your weight? How can you make sure that you even exercises, emphasize and encourage people to do them, because sometimes, like for instance, when you talk about exercises, people tend to think about gym. People tend to complicate and see it as if, oh man, this one I have to go and pay for a gym somewhere and I don't have money. No. Sometimes,
like what Jeff does.
Imagine.
Indeed.
Yeah, but like when you talk about aerobic exercises, like walking, it does not take you anything that you have to pay somewhere so that you can be trained how to walk. Make sure at least you walk around, you sweat, you can jog around, you can even run, you know, such kind of things which are free. You can just do them at your comfort place. You see, like now, those who are working in offices, once you leave the office, sometimes even train yourself within your compound. Just have some walk. You make sure you sweat before you can go and take a shower, maybe before sleep and all that. That develops, you know, a good and healthy lifestyle, and also prolongs even your life.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking about story, yeah, weightlifting and you know about you know exercising as well. Unajua kuna watu wameunga lakini bado weight yao iko chini. Then sisi watu kama sisi we tend to have more weight, right? So that's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, now we can't imagine that how yeah.
There's a reason to why you go to the gym.
All right.
Kuna wale wasio wameenda kuunda muscles, kuna wasio wameenda kwa gym ku gain weight, kuna wasio wameenda kwa gym ku lose muscles na ku lose weight.
But mbona gain muscles? So I think mwilika hizi zetu ziko fit.
Depending on your intention, kuna there are boxers. The people just want to grow muscle to build shape. They just love it that way. So your intention going to gym is usually crucial and something that one needs to consider a lot.
I think from that angle, my director knows best on weightlifting. I think we should advise him on the same. All right. So what are some of the challenges, Jeff, to consider, because we are embracing this, and of course we want change. We want a direct design of all this. So what are some of the challenges zenye zinahinda kuweza propel the aspects on NCDs to make sure that every other person understands this?
The biggest challenge here I can say is a lack of facilities and support from the government, not even from the government per se, but even other health stakeholders, because I tend to think that we are doing less as much as health is concerned. And not really health, I want to focus on primary prevention of diseases, whereby utapata wase who are advocating or doing health education, they are very minimal. Nata wakiwa those minimal utapata their salaries are being delayed. Nata they are going to very hardship areas. Unapata they are not facilitated in terms of transport and other things. And to some extent, I tend to think that the government and other health stakeholders, they have neglected even the health practitioners. There's a health practitioner who died in Kenyatta Hospital because of what? He couldn't afford what he's offering. You can imagine. I'm a health practitioner, the service I'm offering, when I need them, they become too expensive for me to afford. So napata we have been neglected. The second thing is finance, inadequate finance. And you can also testify this, starting from Tier 1 hospital, Tier 2 added referral. The government has really done little. Yes, we can't negate that they are doing something, but they should have done more than this. Go to our hospitals, you'll see, people are sharing beds. Unaweza imagine ile Panadol unanunua kwa duka, a referral ama level 5 hospital haina, so unashindwa hii ni hosi gani? Which kind of of hospital is this? And it's something that costs 10 bob, but you can get it anywhere, but kwa hosi unapata haiko. So those are two main challenges that we health practitioners face.
Indeed.
For us to face or curb the increase in the rate of non-communicable disease among people.
Indeed. All right. So, Karumba, talk to us about now, even as we get to the bottom line, we at least have 6 minutes to round up the session. Preventive measures, and what are some of the misconceptions that you'd like to clear for us today?
Well, number one, when you talk about prevention, this actually, it's very, I think we have even mentioned it again and again and again and again. One of it, it's actually, let's check on our lifestyle. And lifestyle here, when I talk about lifestyle, it's very robust. We are talking about things like exercising. We are talking about things like make sure at least what your body consumes, particularly like the sugars. I tell people it's not bad to take sugar, but at least make sure it's utilized. You get? And the only way to make sure that this sugar is utilized is make sure you exercise appropriately. Then when you talk about things like dietary modifications, make sure you take a balanced diet.
Indeed.
Yeah, sometimes there are people who tend to take, for instance, they are so much inclined with red meat, with all these kind of, you know, snacks. Like a day you have to take mandazi, chapati, chipo, and all kind of, like, to the ladies. Yeah, for real, for real. It's not bad, but don't take in excess. When you're taking in excess, now you're making it toxic to your body. You get? So it's very important that you check on your diets, you check on your lifestyles, and at the same time, I emphasize on regular checkups. Make sure at least you visit a hospital. Visit a hospital, have a check of your vitals, check your blood pressure, check your, you know, the temperatures and all that. You know, it's very important at least to make sure that you are aware of what is happening in your body. You get? Because this body is one thing that God made that is very, very miraculous. The Lord has, this body is like a machine. It's like the same way you treat your car. Your car, definitely after some time, you know, after a certain, you know, after some time or after a certain period of time, you have to take it for services. The same case with this body. It's always important to have those regular checkups because that is like servicing your body to make sure you are healthy.
All right.
Yeah, those are the major three that I can actually emphasize on.
All right. Yeah. You also delved on the misconception that you were supposed to clear on that.
Well, we have these misconceptions. Like most people, when you develop like a headache, and there's this tendency that people, every time you develop a headache, you want to just ignore and just rush to a nearby facility and maybe buy a painkiller, and then you go back home.
All right.
It is always important to make sure that when you have such kind of issues with your health, visit a hospital.
Of course.
So that you can be checked. You might be developing, maybe it might be the pressure, high blood pressure at its early stages. And for you, you're just thinking it's just a normal headache and you just go and take. And by the time now it's becoming perilous to you, it's when you're being taken to the hospital. And it's a health threat. So let us always embrace these you know, embrace the hospitals. They are there for us. The government has brought them even to where we are, so that you can make use of them, so that we can take care of our health.
So Karumba, you'll add it when I'm giving you another space to pima me the, you know, my heartbeat is, you know, about this blood parliament thing. Of course, the heart rate is not as normal. Yeah, you'll add that even as you share that engagement. But how can we get now your contacts and services?
Well, it's easy. My contacts, actually, I can just give it.
All right.
If you don't mind. My number is 0708 506 290.
All right, thank you so much. So, Jeff, you wanted to add something on the same. So you come add me something. Then we. What is this tool?
This is called stethoscope.
Kuja tunayo side ndo tuifanyia hapa.
This is called stethoscope. It is used to check the heartbeats. The heartbeats. Yes, it is used to check the heartbeats. And here with us here.
This one.
Yeah, this one. This one, yes. This one is called. This one is thermogun.
Indeed.
It only takes.
Inakupima nini?
Inakupima temperature.
All right.
Yeah, una point to.
Okay, hapa.
Inaona inakaka douche. Yeah, you can do it here.
36, so 36 is normal.
36 is normal.
So I'm normal.
Yeah, you are normal.
All right.
And like, though pressure imepanda because of parliament blood, but naona iko fiti. Yes. This one is called oximeter. This one checks on oxygen level in blood.
Indeed.
And also it checks on pulse rate. Yes.
So
if it's below 90, that means your respiratory or blood circulation has something or of the sort. But if it's 90 and above, your blood circulation or oxygen circulation. Okay. Let's check your heart rate.
Okay.
It's done that way. Then you do it.
All right. Na kama ni mbaya usichome.
And you just place it there and I'll listen for a minute. Yes.
Nice. So must it be a minute? A minute?
That's a minute. That is 122. That is normal.
It's normal.
That is
Thank you so much. I believe sina pressures. No.
Pressure.
So how can we get you across social media then?
You can get me via my number. That is 0716813290. And also in my YouTube, you can get me in my YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Jeff Kipsang.
Thank you so much.
Just before we finish, I'm an author too.
All right.
Yes, I'm an author.
So as we wind up.
Yes, I'm an author too. And this is my first book I did. It's called The Better Sacrifice. It's such a wonderful book. And you cannot afford this one because tukiwa bado tuko na hangover ya Easter, this one will help you understand the reason why Jesus came and his death, significance of his death to our lives. You can't afford to get this one. It's very affordable, 500 shillings.
Siku moja nafaa kualika sasa tuongelee kitabu.
Very true.
Alright.
Thank
you so much, Jeff.
Karibu sana.
Indeed. Nice to have you.
Yes.
Na nimeshukuru sana.
Karibu sana.
Big up Karumba. So this is how we are crowning it up. So ladies and gentlemen, of course, we've just had an engagement right here on the Health Deep Check, and of course it matters to you. This is non-communicable diseases engagement right to the heart of you. Now blood parliament and blood pressure is coming in handy, but how are we able to do that? They've advised and just stay calm, of course, till the end of time. My name is Moses Okech. We've embraced Tuesday. See you tomorrow as we now engage socially to really understand the depths of the society. So even as we wind up, of course, Cheza, good job, well done. And of course, thank you so much, my director, King Dantimak. See you tomorrow.